Hey guys, welcome to Fearless Cooking. Thanks for joining me today. So today we're going to do one of the quick meals that I like, because I think a lot of people, the reason they don't cook is I don't have time, okay, or I don't know how. Well, Fearless Cooking, the whole thing that this is about is teaching you the how, right? And this sort of stuff is to help you realize that you can cook a meal at home in less time than you can leave, go grab takeout, and come back. So this is basically to try and help fast food proof you, okay? So before we get going through all the ingredients, if you haven't done so already, you're going to preheat your oven to 450 degrees or 420. And that's just kind of an arbitrary number, but it's like I know it's going to work. So, you know. All right, and what I'm going to do right now, just so that we get this out of the way, and then I'll go through all the ingredients in a second. Obviously, if you're on the show, you already know we're cooking steak, right? So we're going to do stir-fry steak with snow peas, mushrooms, bell pepper, and we're going to make a pan sauce. Yeah. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to get the cauliflower rice on the sheet pan, so it's ready to go whenever the oven preheats. So I'm just going to cut this real quick. And man, if you haven't been using cauliflower rice, I highly recommend it. And if you happen to have stumbled onto this and you're a vegetarian, even if you don't have the meat to go with it, the thing that's great about cauliflower rice is it can replace rice in an awful lot of dishes, and it's adding an extra vegetable, and it doesn't hammer your blood sugar. So anyway, what I'm going to do with this is just kind of spread it out.
Is it still frozen?
It's still frozen.
Okay, that's
yeah.
all right.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Yeah, and so the thing with cauliflower rice is the time on it is kind of flexible, because it's not like regular rice where that if you don't cook it long enough, it's going to break your tooth. But with this, we're going to let it go 20, 25 minutes. And if it's starting to look like it's done and we still have something else to do here, I'm just going to kill the oven, and then we'll just let it coast for a few minutes. So today's wine is whatever it is, Synergia. I've opened another bottle. This one is a Sterling. This is kind of like cooking wine. And so these two glasses out here, this is chicken stock, that's wine, it's a cup each, and then I've got cold butter in the fridge that I'll be using to make the pan sauce with. But real quick, what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to do a real generous pinch of salt
over the cauliflower
rice, and then I'm going to put a real generous pinch of coarse ground pepper. And I'm not doing anything else with it because we're going to have some thyme and shallots and garlic in the pan sauce. And then what I'm going to do with the olive oil is I'm just going to kind of drizzle it over the top. All right. And then I'm just going to, once again, use my hands and kind of get it nice and mixed up. All right. Wash this off my hands, and then we'll just set this over on the stove so when that thing preheats, we'll be ready to go. All right, what we're going to do next, I've already salted and peppered the steak, and I've just been letting it sit, kind of coming out closer to room temperature. Set this here. We'll be using this in a second, make it a little closer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut the steaks.
And what other ingredients do you have already prepped?
So
that people
yeah, hang on a second. We'll go through that. So I've done the mushrooms, and I just, I said between a half a pound and a pound. That's a red bell pepper that what I do with bell peppers when I'm going to prep them is I just cut it down the middle, take my finger or thumb and just pop the stem out, and then just use my fingers to pull the kind of the veins out. And then this is probably about a half a pound of snow peas that I've just rinsed off, and that's it. They're sitting there.
Okay.
So, and then this is 1 clove of garlic. That's 1 kind of beefy shallot. And then this is just a little bit of thyme, and then some kind of a spicy mustard. And that the spicy mustard, the wine, the chicken stock, and the butter are all going to go in the pan sauce. So what we're going to do right now, just so that we have it ready, is I'm going to go ahead and cut the steak. And I'm not, but because I didn't want to just like pan sear the steak and then cut it afterwards.
Okay.
But I don't want to steam the steak. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in some pretty good sized pieces. You can see each one of these pieces is about a pound. So I'm just going to, once again, kind of use my fingers as the guide. I'm going to cut this probably in about, like, the strips are going to be like a third. So
A third. Oh, you're taking the steak. And
yeah,
cut it
let me
to
do this so that everybody can see. So I'm just going to take this and just like run my finger down it.
So probably about inch or 2 inch.
Yeah, so that's usually an inch right there.
Okay.
So that's about an inch wide. Yeah. So this middle piece will be a little bit wider. And I'm not going to do a whole lot of trimming on it. I mean, we'll take a look, and then I'm going to cut these across in a second. But this one, since it's a thinner one, well, let's see, we'll do it about like, I'll tell you what, we're just going to cut this one in half. All right. And then I'll just, what I'm trying to do is make these kind of like roughly like more than bite size.
Would you hold one up? So we
Yeah,
can
I
see
will.
what
Just
size?
let me finish cutting through them. Yeah, about like that. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to just kind of put these all in a line. We'll just run through all of them. So, and you know, you could certainly use tougher steak than this. We're only going to cook this about 1.5 minutes aside. So it's not going to take long at all to cook. So, you know, anything that's a tougher meat that you'd want to let cook longer, it probably wouldn't be ideal for this. My guess is that like flank steak would work. These were, you know, and I had said grass-fed if you can get it. When I went, the grass-fed that I had gotten earlier in the week at Central Market, they didn't have. So this is like a prime top sirloin. All right, so now then, what we're going to do first, I'm going to go ahead and get the burner fired up, get the cast iron skillet on. The order that we're going to do this in, we're going to do the bell peppers first. Once those kind of get going, none of this stuff is going to take very long. In fact, I'm looking for my bowl. Here it is. Because we'll be using, once I get the stuff done, I'm just going to be grabbing it, throwing it in here. This is kind of the holding bowl.
For the things as they've been cooked.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to do bell peppers, and while they're still in there, we'll toss the snow peas in.
Okay.
We'll pull that out. Then we'll put the mushrooms in. Mushrooms just soak the oil up just like almost instantly. So then what we're going to do is we're going to throw a little bit of water in, about 1/3 of a cup. So we're going to let them kind of steam,
Okay.
right? So they'll release some of their juices, and they also don't. That way it keeps them from, if we put 1/3 of a cup of oil in, the mushrooms would soak it all up, okay? And then once we get that, we'll get that out of there. Then we'll cook the steak. We'll pull the steak out. We'll put just a little bit of olive oil in. We'll get the shallots started. Then we'll add the garlic. We're going to let that cook for just a minute. Then we're going to add the wine, let it reduce. Then we'll add the chicken stock, and the thyme and the mustard, and then we'll add the butter in. That's our steps. All right, so let's get started on this. Get this thing lit. Oh, this thing has got a safety deal where There we go.
Good to know it works.
Yeah, it works. I'm going to pull this back. Move this out of the way. All right, so let's go let this heat up for just a second. Not get it quite so hot. So we'll, yeah, like I said, this whole meal, you know, it's going to be filling. It's going to be nutritious. You know, if you don't have ready access to snow peas, asparagus would work great.
I would imagine green beans might be good too.
They would. You'd have to adjust your cooking time just a little bit. If you were going to do green beans, I would say use those that are the French green beans or the verts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you know, you could do you know, you could do Brussels sprouts with it. You just have to adjust your timing. Mm-hmm. Broccoli would also work.
So you're getting the pan hot.
I'm going to get the pan hot.
Put in the oil.
I'm going to put the oil in now, and then I'm not going to put a whole lot in. There we go.
It goes about a tablespoon, maybe.
Yep, and I can already see it starting to kind of like shimmer a little bit. I'm going to grab this because the handle gets hot. Okay, so we're going to put the bell pepper in first. You can hear it sizzling, so. And then we'll just hit it with a little salt. Not a ton. There it is. And you know, these pieces, I left them kind of big on purpose. This whole thing is like, you know, I don't want stuff to get like soft. I want everything to kind of have a little bit of a crunch left. Yeah. And you can see, I mean, this is, warning, this is going to be a smoky one today. So, you know, I'm going to be like peering through the smoke before this is over with.
So what are you looking for before you add the snow peas so people can?
I'm just trying to get it a little bit softer. I'm going to turn the flame down just a touch. Yeah, this flame is so much higher than what is on the stove.
You want it just a little soft before you add the others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's just got, I'm going to let it go for just a little bit longer. What I'm trying to do is to keep this thing from just completely smoking us out. I was reading this thing the other day, and they said one of the things that home cooks can't do is do the same thing that restaurants do where they talk about a screaming hot pan. And I have to agree with them, because if I had like a giant vent hood in here, then that would be, you know, I wouldn't have to worry about filling the whole house full of smoke. And I have tried to do it out on the grill. It won't get quite as hot. I think one of these days I'm going to try this just out of the back porch and see how that works. All right, so let's go in here with this.
Okay, so now you're adding the pot.
Yep, and I just put those in there. I was going to let that sit because I just heard the oven beep. So you're going to set a timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And with these, all we're going to do is just really kind of, I just want to tell that the snow peas are starting to cook just a little bit. It won't take very long, because these things are just, you know, they're so thin, it doesn't take anything at all to heat them. Whoops. An escaped snow pea.
So you're looking for them just to soften up a
bit,
not too much.
Just to kind of tell, all right, a little bit of thermal work's been done.
But when you put it back into the sauce, I imagine they're going to cook a little bit more.
Not really, because we're not going to leave them in there that long. All I want to do when I put it back in is just warm the stuff up just a little bit. We're really not going to accomplish much cooking at that point. This is you know, everything today is like, even with the steak we're going to do more in the medium rare category. You know, the only thing that we're really going to cook pretty much all the way through are the mushrooms. Because otherwise that texture is just not what we're looking for, or the taste. So I'm just going to let these like rest undisturbed for a minute or two. That's more of a metaphorical minute, not the full minute.
Smells good.
Yeah, you know, that's that, you can smell the snow peas.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, you know, they just, yeah, they're already a little bit soft, and that's really all you're looking for, is just to kind of soften them up just a little bit. And it helps bring some of that sugar out that's in them. It's real close.
Very colorful as well.
It is. I mean, and, you know, you guys hear me say it all the time, but it's like, life's too short to eat canned food.
Mm-hmm. What did you just do?
I just add a little bit of pepper and just a touch of salt. Stir that up. Now that's going to go in the holding bucket.
Okay. Now you're taking them out.
Yeah, now I just use the tongs. And I'm not going to add any oil to this to put the mushrooms in. Because they're just going to soak it up if I do. So what I'm going to do, tell you what, let's see how. Yeah, cast iron skillet handles.
They're heavy.
Well, the skillets are heavy, but the handles can get just hot as hell. So you just have to be super careful that you don't end up branding your hand. Okay, so let this get hot, because I want it hot enough to sort of sear it when it goes in.
And this is
the mushrooms are going next. Yeah. Yeah, we're starting to get a little smoke. All right. And these are shiitakes. You can use any kind of mushroom. It's funny, I never cooked with shiitakes until like maybe, I don't know, a year ago. And it's like, now it's my favorite mushroom. And, you know, I know they've got more minerals and all this other stuff. I just like the way they taste. And I'm just going to let this get hot, and then I'm going to
putting the water in.
I'm going to put it in just a second.
Okay.
I'm kind of wanting to hear that sizzle.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can hear it over the fan, but
starting to hear it a little bit.
Yeah. It's just, yeah. I'm going to let it kind of tell me when to do it. I'm going to put just a touch of salt on. And if you notice, I salt kind of all the way through. That way you just kind of build the layers of the flavor in it. All right, let's add water in. There we go.
How do you know when these are ready to pick out?
They'll just start, first of all, they'll just start to shrink up. I mean, you know, the kind of, because part of what this is going to do is to get them to release some of that water that's already in them.
Yeah.
And then what we'll do is we'll kind of move them to the side. I'll put maybe just a little, you know, dollop of olive oil in there, okay. You know, run them around in that just for a minute, and then we'll move them off.
Okay.
Then we'll do the steak, We'll pull it out, then we'll do the shallots, garlic, and then we'll add the wine. We're going to let the wine reduce to where we can run a spoon through and see a trail through it.
And will you put the meat in the same bowl as the vegetables?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so it'll be okay to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah, because it's cooked.
Yeah.
And we want, you know, any juice, we want it going into the vegetables, and then we'll put, yeah. You know, and the thing too about steak is, you know, USDA guidelines when they give temperatures and stuff is to make things as idiot-proof as possible, okay? So with steak, you know, there's steak tartare, right, which is raw steak. I don't, you know, the other day I was like cutting into some Wagyu, and I was like, I wonder what that would taste like raw. And I just went, I don't know the supply chain on that thing well enough. But with regular steak, you know, all you're trying to do is kill the surface bacteria, because, you know, it's kind of like inside the muscle, you shouldn't be dealing with bacteria. And it, you know, and a lot of it is like, obviously, I'm not going to take something that I get off of the clearance rack in the grocery store and, you know, cook it where that it's on the rare side of medium rare.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so you can see how how they've changed, right? Yeah. They you know, they're taking on that appearance of cooked mushrooms. Now what I'm going to do is push them out to the sides, and I'm just going to put just a very little amount of olive oil right in the middle. Yeah, there we go.
And why are you doing this?
Just to kind of finish them off.
Okay. The very end. Brown them a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
Well, and also just to give them, you know, a little bit more of a finish.
Okay.
That's not a very satisfying answer, but it's the best I can come up with.
The olive oil also adds to the flavor.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so what's happening now?
Okay, so now I'm pouring them off into the holding bucket. And I'm scraping out a little bit of kind of burned ones on the bottom. Not really burned, but it's just kind of a
browner one.
Yeah, and then, you know, that's also going to kind of help with our sauce. All right, so now then what I'm doing is putting a little bit more olive oil in so that we can cook the steaks in there. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see. We'll get this nice and distributed. And once I put this, and I've already salt and peppered the steaks, but what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to just put this in there, and I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to turn it. I'm not going to do anything for about a minute and a half.
Okay.
Okay. So.
To wait till it gets hot enough?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is it's going to drop the temp of the pan, because I'm going to go ahead and put all of this in.
I'm sorry, how much olive oil did you put in? Just enough for the
Yeah,
bottom?
just enough to just kind of give a coating on the bottom. It's not, you know, we're not trying to submerge the meat in it or anything. All right. Yeah, here we go. Wait just a second.
You wanted it to really hear it.
Yeah, I do, and like I said, I know putting this much meat in. Yeah, here we go. It's going to cool it off some. And, you know, I say I'm going to put it all in. I'm not going to overlap it, so I don't know if it'll be.
So that every piece needs to touch the bottom of the steak.
Yeah, I don't want it. And also because what happens then is you start to steam it instead of cook it.
Okay.
But I think we're good. So would you set a timer for, well, okay, I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah, let me do that. Hey Siri, set a timer for 2 minutes.
You want 2 minutes on each side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Put this one top of our meat area.
Watch that later.
Mm-hmm. Pick that up just a
What
little bit.
other, could you put something besides steak? What other meat might you use?
Chicken would go great in this. I mean, this is one of those things, like these ingredients are kind of malleable enough that, you know, fish might be a little, I mean, fish would go with those ingredients. We'd probably just do it differently.
Just cook it differently.
Yeah, I mean, you could do shrimp, you know,
that would be good.
yeah, I mean, shrimp would go perfect with that. You could do, like, you could use pork tenderloin.
Even with this pan sauce, the pan sauce would work with the.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, basically it's going to be a butter wine sauce. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fish you would want to, instead of using a red wine, you'd use a white wine.
Got it.
And probably the same thing if you were doing with shrimp, you'd probably want to use a white wine.
But all the other ingredients could remain the same.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, anything that you can cook pretty quick. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this meal is, all right, how do you get kind of all the ingredients that you need for a family meal that is gonna appeal to everybody, right?
There's easily 4 adult servings in this meal.
Yes. Yeah.
Easily, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's roughly 2 pounds of meat. All right. So now I'm just
So you
turning it
turn
over.
every single piece over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're probably gonna, because I crowded the pan, it's gonna take just a little bit longer.
For them to cook.
But I mean, not much at all. I'm probably gonna leave it in for like 3 minutes to get the next, and then all I've been doing is just kind of moving it to make sure I don't have any like super just, you know, raw pieces.
Yeah. So if you just keep checking to the
Yeah.
sides that are.
Yeah, because it's the beauty of meat that's this tender and the pieces that are this small, it cooks in a real short period of time. Yeah. All right. I'm going to actually cancel this and put it in for. Two more minutes.
So 2 more minutes, you said
Yeah.
on your timer?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then at the end of two minutes, then what I'm going to do is just kind of stir it around.
Okay.
Yeah.
You really don't want to see any pink on the outside, correct?
I don't care about, I just don't want any like raw steak on the outside. Yeah. More for you than for me.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And if others like their meat done more,
Yeah.
they can always cook.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, if it's good steak, then, or good meat, to me the better the quality, the more towards medium rare, or the more rare side of medium rare I want. I mean, obviously if it's pork, I want it. My thing with pork is I actually want it kind of a little bit on the medium rare side. I don't want it full on to medium. And what I figured out is when I started cooking meat that way, I sure like the way that it tasted better. And once I discovered, Kenji Lopez Alt's piece about, hey, as long as it's at a temperature for a period of time, it accomplishes the same thing as the higher temperatures. Okay, so about 20 seconds. And I can see some pieces here that are still really red. So what I'm going to do is just kind of roll everything around now.
A little bit more.
Yeah. Basically just kind of stir it. I'm going to hit it with some really high heat. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if I've got a piece that looks kind of on the raw side, I'll flip it over.
Give a little bit more cooking time.
Yeah, just actually what I'm trying to do right now is just any of the liquids, kind of let that cook off, which is also a sign that I, shouldn't have crowded it as much as I did.
The fact that there's liquid?
Yeah, because it's like it should have just seared off hard. But once again, that's the thing about the challenge of a house with, limited ventilation. All right, now we're good. So I'm going to pull this off. Actually, I'll do this. Just pouring it in.
With the other vegetables?
Yep. All right, now I'm going to back this flame off a little bit because I don't want to melt the cast iron. Okay, now then what I'm going to do is put just a touch of oil in here for the shallots and the garlic.
Now we're getting ready to do the pan sauce.
Now we're doing the pan sauce. So see, this thing comes together pretty quick.
Yeah,
okay, so first I'm going to put the shallots in because they take a little longer than the garlic.
Okay.
I'm just going to stir those around in there. And like I said, this isn't going to take, because this is also going to be in here with the wine. So I'm putting the garlic in now. You can immediately smell it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, you can really smell that garlic heating up. All right, so that we don't burn it, I'm going to go ahead and pour the wine in. Okay. What we're doing with this is we're going to accomplish several things. We're going to we're going to cook the alcohol off. Okay. We're going to add a base of flavor in there. And what I keep looking for is, as I scrape this thing along, I want it to leave a trail. Okay. Right now there's no trail. It's all just liquid. The second the spoon goes through, the liquid goes in and fills the spot. I think they call it a sec, which is it's like dry. Just kind of what that's. Yeah.
What does it smell? The aroma of all those different ingredients is so lovely.
Yes. Yeah, and it's, this is a super simple sauce, right? And, I think that's one of the things that I realized, that for the most part, a lot of people shy away from sauces, but it's the thing that really elevates food.
Yeah.
So it's starting to get a little closer. All right, so what you said we had about
20 seconds until the.
Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this, because what I'm going to be looking for on that is just a touch of brown.
So you're going to look at the cauliflower.
I'm going to look at the cauliflower rice real quick. That one's fine right there where it is.
It's okay to leave it?
Yeah. All right, let's you set it for 3 more minutes?
3 more minutes.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Because you want the cauliflower rice to be a little brown on the top, you said?
Just a touch, and then I'll turn the oven off and just leave it in there.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still managed to let's see, spot some wine on the.
It's also the towel that had the meat on it.
Yeah, I know. So it's going to be an OxyClean moment. All right, still going. Not quite there yet. Getting closer.
So it's hard to see because of the smoke, but it's still pretty liquidy.
Yeah, it is. And so all we're trying to do is just reduce it. We're getting closer. Yeah, still close. Yeah, like this. Not going to be that much longer. And then I'll pour the chicken stock in and go ahead and get the butter out. Yeah.
Turning it down or
Just a little bit down because I don't want it to burn.
Okay.
But I want that thickening. You can see just, yeah, just almost there.
So if people watching the show are cooking with you, if they already have that.
Yeah, then go ahead and put your chicken stock in. Yeah. All right. I think that's, yeah, that one, it left a trail. See, you don't want to see if you can see it or not, but there's like, yeah, let's see, you can see the, yeah. So now I'm going to put the chicken stock in. The other thing I'm going to add to it is I'm going to add, calls for a tablespoon of mustard. So this is going to be an eyeball situation. There we go. That's about a tablespoon. Okay. And then I'm going to toss in the thyme. And then we're just going to stir that in. The thing that the mustard does, it gives it flavor, but it also acts as an emulsifier. So it kind of helps hold the sauce together.
The mustard does.
Yeah, yeah.
The timer just went off.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to take a quick gander at the cauliflower rice, see what that looks like. Yeah, we're starting to get a little bit of a color, so now I'm going to go ahead and turn the oven off, and we're just going to let that hang out.
Let it sit in there.
Yeah, we're going to let it coast. Okay. All right, so now then I'm going to pull the cold butter out. I'm going to let this chicken stock reduce a little bit. So we just keep stirring it. All right. It's the wine allotment for Carol's cooking tonight.
Oh, it smells so good.
Yes. And, you know, I didn't, this was box chicken stock. I'm going to make some. So next week, what we're going to do, I'm going to record that one. I'm going to do an Instapot, like a chicken stew. You know, it's not 95 now, so I guess it means it's fall in Austin. You know, we're going to have some 70-degree days later this week. So it's like, okay, time for something a little more fall-like. So what we're going to do is it'll be chicken and some like different peppers and some sun-dried tomatoes and some coconut milk and some chicken bone broth. So yeah, and if you go back and look, I showed earlier how to make bone broth. So if you've got the time, I would say make your own broth. But this will be something that is going to be like warming. I think you're going to like it. So anyway, I'll get that posted next week. All right, so I think we're getting closer. Let me see. This smells great. Just another minute or so, and then I'm going to start adding the butter. Okay. And what we're doing with this is just the term in French, I think, is like it's malt. So it's basically they're using the butter as this emulsifying agent. So it's like, you know, it's it's gonna thicken the sauce. It's gonna give it that sheen, and I'm just adding it in a little bit at a time. It's what it's gonna do. It's gonna make it decadent as hell. Which, you know, life is too short to eat boring food. And for people going, oh my God, all that butter, it's going to clog our arteries. I just saw this piece earlier today. I haven't watched the whole thing, but it's this guy chronicling the change in our fat consumption since like right after the Civil War. And what he's talking about is how we have replaced animal fats with all these seed oils. And it's an interesting thing. You know, I think, you know, I'm not going to say that it's causation, but it's a pretty spooky correlation to where you see that, you know, all of a sudden we have all these like illnesses now that we didn't have back in the like 1819, like say that 1900, early part of the century. People weren't dying of heart attacks. They died of infectious diseases. And so, you know, we've had this whole kind of lifestyle diseases, and a lot of it has kind of tracked this, us getting away from eating real food. So all I'm saying is don't be scared of butter. All right, now this is, yeah, we're getting some thickness to it.
So you want the sauce?
I'm gonna just like let it go just another minute or so. And then I don't want to break the sauce. And now I'm going to add all the veggies back in. Everybody back in the pool. Oh, yeah.
So everything back in the pan.
Mm-hmm. We're just going to let that coat.
Oh, that looks really, really yummy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty tasty. Mushrooms, steak, and snow peas, and a great red wine butter sauce.
The red pepper also adds some color to it.
It does.
Makes it very almost festive.
All right, so guys, we've got steak, mushrooms, snow peas. We got a great sauce on here. We're going to put it over cauliflower rice. It was great cooking with you. And like I said, I'll record next week's and I'll get that on. And then also just kind of give you a heads up. One of the things that I'm going to do during November is to start looking at some kind of options for the holidays, right? So, you know, Jude has now become a big fan of my celery root mash. It's got a lot more personality than mashed potatoes. So anyway, hope you enjoyed today's meal and look forward to cooking with you guys soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.